Hello, my name is Rosa, and today I'll be talking about climate change. More specifically, what is climate change, what caused climate change to be what it is today, and how can we further prevent the damages of climate change. According to NBC weather statistics, in 2014 in New York City, the average temperature from the 10th of December all the way up to the 24th of December was 62.3 degrees Fahrenheit. In December, especially in the middle of December, this is extremely odd weather to see coming out of New York City. In New York City, during this time period, we are usually in the middle of fall and winter, more towards the end of fall and the beginning of winter. Usually the average temperature you'll see is about the mid to high 30s. So seeing 60-degree weather was extremely odd, and it obviously caught media attention. It caught political attention, and it also caught moral attention. There were debates politically and morally, as I stated, and it all had one thing in common, that climate change is a real thing, it is a real threat, and it is a real possibility that our Earth can be in danger. Today's climate is very, very bad. Places like China have seen spikes in their temperatures over the last decades, and it continues, and it is a continuous occurrence in places around the world, especially in places around the equator, where it is usually hot all year round. If this occurs for a longer period of time, we will see drastic changes in our world, like sea levels rising because of the melting of Antarctica's icebergs, and ice caps. We will see small islands be completely washed off maps because of rising sea levels. And we will see species like animal species be completely deceased and extinct because they can't keep up with the temperatures. I've done extensive research on this problem. I've researched both sides, and both sides, like as in my side, where I am pro human action side, meaning I support the cases that are made pointing towards humans being the cause for air pollution, global warming, and climate change as a whole. I also have done extensive research on the opposite side. The opposite side stating that humans are not 100% at fault, and that nature does have a role in climate change, and climate change could be a natural occurrence that happens every 100 years or so, and we're just in the middle of this. Climate change, according to dictionary.com, is a change in global or regional climate. Climate change has been a big issue since the 20th century and beyond. The cause being attributed to large amounts of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide usually being produced by the use of fossil fuels. The main cause of climate change, although being global warming. Global warming is the warming of the Earth's atmosphere attributed to greenhouse effects, which is caused by large levels of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere. Just by comparing the two definitions of global warming and climate change, you can see how they go hand in hand and how they're so similar. Although it may seem that putting carbon dioxide into the air is a bad thing, it necessarily always isn't. There is always a presence of carbon dioxide in the air there's always about 0.03% of carbon dioxide in the air at all times. And that is not because of global warming or climate change. That is just the way the earth is designed and how the biological beings that live here can survive because of the carbon dioxide in the air. The problem arises when there is too much carbon dioxide in the air. That is when climate starts to change and things like global warming come into effect. Since humans started the Industrial Revolution, which lasted from the mid to early 1700s to the early 1800s, there has been a massive amount of carbon dioxide being released into the air. Ever since that time forward until today, there has been tons and tons of carbon dioxide poured into the air year after year with the creations of factories, then the creations of cars and planes. There has just been massive amounts of carbon dioxide being poured into the air. The United States has the second most cars registered in the world next to China. And according to cars.com, there is 263.6 million registered cars in the United States. According to Adam from cars.com, 1 gallon of gasoline burns into 20 pounds of carbon dioxide. In turn, one average car in the United States burns and releases up to 6 tons of carbon dioxide per year into the air. That is just one car out of the 263 million point six registered in the United States alone. That is just one country. That is just 300 million people compared to the 7 billion in the world. The Industrial Revolution was a big stepping stone in humanity and civilization because we figured out how to mass produce products, how to make things faster, and how to make things in larger numbers. Meaning we made factories. We had line workers and machines and oil and iron pumping into the air, which in turn was the start of global warming. We had tons and tons of carbon dioxide being pushed into the air every day across England where it originally started, then being pushed onto the west side of the hemisphere in America. In 2018, pollution has gotten so bad in some places around the world that people in Hong Kong, China have to walk around wearing face masks because of the pollution. This is one example of that. It is important to remember that humans are absolutely 100% to blame for the causes of climate change and global warming, but we are also going to be 100% the reason that global warming or climate change won't ruin our future if that comes to happen. The counter to this argument is that yes, humans are partially to blame for air pollution and climate change, but we shouldn't take 100% of the blame because most of it is just nature doing its thing. Ian Johnston, an environmental correspondent, wrote an article on the independent.co.uk making statements like nature is mostly to blame for the Arctic's decline in sea ice, making statements like up to 70% of the changes to the atmospheric circulation are due to natural causes. He made bold statements like this but didn't go much into detail, so I did further research into other arguments against humans part in climate change, and I found that one of the most famous and most brought up arguments against climate change is that the climate has changed before, like in prehistoric times, like the Ice Age or the mini Ice Age that almost killed off humanity. If If you weren't aware, there was a mini ice age in prehistoric times that almost killed humanity. There was estimated to be about 2 to 3 million humans at the time, and after the ice age hit, we were left with about 10 to 20,000 humans. That meaning that everybody alive now is an ancestor to those humans that were left. Skeptics use this point to show everybody that there were climate changes in the past and there wasn't any factories or cars or airplanes or human technology to influence the climate to change. Some skeptics use these arguments, or others famous skeptics like the President of the United States, Donald Trump, prefer to go a different route in saying that climate change is a myth. He stated this on multiple occasions, saying that we don't, and I quote, "we don't really have to worry about it because it is not real." In conclusion, humans didn't mean to harm the earth, but the point is that we did, and we have to do our best to revert what we've done by cleaning up after ourselves, not littering, using energized cars, trying to convince companies to use less workers, which is most likely unlikely because most companies are money hungry and they will take any shortcut possible to get what they want. But what we can do is do our part by using reusable batteries, recycling, and buying electric cars would also help. My name is Christopher Rosa, and I talked about climate change. About what is climate change, what causes climate change, and what can we do to hopefully further silence the effects of climate change. Thank you.